I'm Rob Norman, author of Future Favors the Bold, and you're listening to the True North Country Comics Podcast.
Welcome to the True North Country Comics Podcast, dedicated to promote Canadian comic book and graphic novel creators and supporters. I'm John Swinimer. On this episode, I chat with Rob Norman about his graphic novel Future Favors the Bold on Kickstarter. This podcast is available at Apple Podcasts and Google Podcasts and YouTube. Please like and subscribe to that video channel. And if you want to help the site and the podcast, please consider supporting the effort by chipping in at ko-fi.com/True North Country Comics. Your patronage is greatly appreciated. Rob is the producer of the CBC's Limited Capacity and Personal Best, which Time magazine calls easily one of the funniest podcasts on air. Rob is a Canadian Screen Award winner for his performance on City TV's Sunnyside. His most current project is a graphic novel, Future Favors the Bold, on Kickstarter. Future Favors the Bold is an 80-page dark satirical sci-fi graphic novel written by Rob, illustrated by CJ Kamba, and colors by Fabi Marquez, known for work on Boom Studios' Power Rangers Unlimited, Natalia Nesterenko, who's done work for Marvel, and more. The book showcases political allegories and mature themes with a storyline of psycho killers in outer space. So without further ado, here's my chat with Rob Norman about his graphic novel Future Favors the Bold on Kickstarter. So, Rob Norman, thank you very much for taking time to chat with me.
Thanks for talking to me.
I appreciate your time. Before we get going with all the questions, I want to ask you, what was the first comic book that you read?
The first comic book I ever read was a miniseries called Sabretooth. This would have been like 93 or so, and it was issue number 3. So it was the middle of a run. It was given to me by my friend Peter Christostomo, and he just handed it to me. I had never seen a comic book before, and I remember opening up those pages and just having my mind blown. I was like, the art was so incredible. It was very abstract, like very expressionist. And I didn't know comics could be like that. So that's my first comic. But I would say that later in life, when I started having my own job, when I was flipping hamburgers, that's when I really got into comics. That's when I was going to Heroes World every Wednesday, spending all the money I made buying books. So there was a light introduction in comics in grade 6. And then in grade 9, it really took off for me.
Cool. Good stuff. Well, lots of good reading back then as a youngster, but I'm wondering who or what inspires you to create today?
You know, one of the things, I mean, there's some tent poles for me. Obviously, Transmetropolitan was a huge influence on me. Grant Morrison is a huge influence on me. But really, these days, the thing that's keeping me going is this thing I started during COVID, actually. Me and my friend, another massive fan of comics, started a comic book club. So we were doing this from our house over Zoom. And each week we read 3 issues of something. And so this has been a really great way for us to find new books. And that's made comics really exciting for me again, because really it is, you have no idea what you're about to read. We're scanning all sorts of new books that I would not normally take a look at. So I would say this comic book club is the thing that's keeping me going right now.
That's cool. That's cool. Is it mostly stuff from the stores, or is it all over the internet? Where do you find most of the content?
It can literally be anything. We do a lot of indie books, but every once in a while we'll go and revisit an arc from the 80s. We revisited Green Lantern Mosaic a couple months ago, and that was a lot of fun. So it's just fun to read through a series. We only do 12 issues of something, so we won't just read the first issue and be done. We need 12 issues of a book, and we'll read through the whole year and then come back and give our reviews. Mm-hmm.
Now, we're here talking today about your latest project, Future Favors the Bold. I wonder if you could talk a wee bit about it, maybe what inspired you to make it.
Yeah, so Future Favors the Bold is a book set in the future. In this future, there is no war, there's no violence, there's no crime, there's no uncivilized thought. Everyone seems to be getting along quite nicely, or so it seems. A bunch of explorers find this old planet. It's been missing for 400 years, and they discover that this planet is full of criminals, serial killers from the past, and they've had 400 years to develop their own society. And so they're trying to make amends with these people and try and bring them into society. But as soon as they do, they unleash something that's very deadly for utopia, which is uncivilized thought. So it's a lot of fun. It's a dark satire. There's lots of blood and guts and jokes and politics. So if you like those things, then you'll love Future Favors the Bold.
Wow, sounds pretty intense, that's for sure. So, was this like something you were ruminating on for a long time? Was there something that you saw, again, you're going back to your comic book club, was there something there that inspired you and said, here's a thought?
I mean, I've been working on this book for a very long time prior to the comic book club. I guess it's almost 5 or 6 years now. And really, this idea came to me in the same way that I get most of my ideas. They seem to just be beamed into my head. I was flying back from Mexico City and I was just doodling on the plane, and I drew this picture, a kind of character dressed in like Star Trek outfit saying, "Welcome to my prison planet full of serial killers." And that little doodle inspired the rest of the world. And like many of the ideas that come to me, it seems to be beamed from somewhere else. I can't really explain why I had to make Future Favors the Bold or where exactly the idea came from, but it's these little bits of inspiration that surprise you, I guess.
Interesting. Yeah. Now, you're the author of this book. You wrote the story. So I'm wondering who helped you with it? What artists did you find and where did you find them?
Yeah, so my co-creator is a guy named CJ Camba. He lives in Buenos Aires, Argentina. I spent a long time looking for the right artist to do this book. When you're first delving into the comics industry, it can be really tricky. I don't come from comics. I make a podcast for CBC. I do a little bit of TV and film work. So this was all pretty new to me, and finding the right artist is really tricky. So I scoured Twitter, I scoured Facebook groups, and I stumbled upon CJ. One thing I like about his work, he's got very clean lines. He has a kind of pop art sensibility. And I was thinking a lot about Mike Allred's run on Ecstatics. And I thought, oh, that's what this book needs. It's so gory, but it's also so funny that we need something that can kind of live between both worlds. And I thought it was extra creepy to have such clean, beautiful characters contrasted with such dark subject matter. Yeah, and the rest of the team is just same kind of way. Natalie Nestorenko I found online, Fabio Marx, the colorists, both have worked for Marvel and Boom. I found a letterer who I really love from Vault Comics to help me with the lettering. And strangely enough, the cover is a wild ride. Growing up, I used to play this card game. It was called Magic the Gathering. My favorite card was a card called Living Death. And it's a picture of these zombie skeletons burying this man alive. And I grew up, I stopped playing the game. I lost the card, which is a real shame. And when I was looking for cover artists, I found this guy who kind of does these full digital paintings. It kind of reminiscent of Brian Boland or those great Vertigo covers of the past. Very detailed, very gritty. And he agreed to do 2 covers for our book. And it turns out when I was kind of going through his portfolio and kind of building a buyout for the press release, I found out that he worked on Magic the Gathering. He actually drew my favorite card of all time, Living Death.
No way.
Yeah, so it's a full circle experience for me with Charlie Gillespie.
That's pretty cool. Yeah. That's a neat thing. You've chosen Kickstarter as your platform for this crowdfunding effort. I want to ask you, why did you choose Kickstarter specifically?
Yeah, so when I was building out this book, I kind of took it around to all the publishing houses. I got offered 2 deals to sign with them. But when you kind of got into the details, it was very tricky. It just didn't seem like it was going to be a great fit for me. And I had some other friends who work at Raid Comics, another friend who had just launched on Kickstarter, and everyone was just saying Kickstarter is the way to go. And I looked into it. I was very nervous. I knew it was going to be a lot of work. I was surprised by how much work it is. It is literally your full-time job. So for this month while we're running the campaign, literally all I'm doing every day is sending emails, returning emails, finding new stretch rewards. So it's a lot. But yeah, I found Kickstarter through other people who were doing Kickstarter.
Okay. And it is a lot of work, that's for sure. Would you do it again?
Would I do it again? Yes, I would. I would be reluctant to put my friends and family through it again, but I would definitely do it again.
Okay. Now, you mentioned rewards. Can you go through some of the incentives that you have available right now?
Yeah, so we have lots of things on offer, including we have the individual issues, the first issue of the book, or you can get the 80-page trade paperback that's available right now. We also have some other offers that I think are kind of crazy. We're offering right now to draw you into a comic. If you're interested, that's our top tier. So if you'd like to appear in Future Favors the Bold, we will put you in as the main character of a short 3-page story where you will be horrifically murdered and tortured.
Oh,
So
my.
if that interests you, you can definitely be a part of the book and watch yourself get cut up real good. Also, yesterday we just launched all of our stretch goals. So we have lots of great stuff, a lot of back matter. We're going to offer some character designs back there. Also, a backer suggested this, and I thought it was so unhinged we had to do it. They requested that we create a Bazooka Joe comic strip. So we're going to design a Bazooka Joe gum and comic and send out to everyone who's a physical backer of goods. And the rest of our stretch goals are all $100 apart. So we really want these stretch goals to go. We're really excited. We're hoping to make the last 14 days of our campaign as fun as it can be.
Yeah, sounds like it. That's for sure. Now, this question's sort of out of left field, but I've been asking creators about the use of AI in comic book creation. It seems to be the hot topic these days. So I want to get your take. Do you think that AI is helpful or harmful to comic book creation?
Yeah. Okay. So, I mean, this is a tricky conversation because my friends who are artists, obviously their livelihood depends on it. And I see a lot of comic artists getting very upset about the possibility of an AI comic. I'm less anxious about it only because I don't think it's going to be competitive. And I know the technology is getting better each and every day. I really do feel like the human element is such an important piece. I mean, I've spent a little time messing around with AI, and once you've created a couple images, you can kind of figure out really quickly what's an AI image. It's going to be the fingers. There's also this weird like filter that goes off of it. It looks like almost like you've put saran wrap over a picture. It's kind of like shards of glass. That's very common in an AI creation. And I feel like maybe because we're all pretty new to this, we don't recognize it. But in the same way with a bad Photoshop filter, I feel the future is going to have so many of these AI images that we're going to become very sophisticated in figuring out what is AI and what is not AI. And I feel like people are going to hunger for the things that are not that. So clean lines, human stories, human expression, all of those things that AI is going to struggle with for a very long time to master.
Okay. Well, I appreciate your feedback on that for sure. Now, we've been talking about Future Favors the Bold. That's your current project. But do you have any other up and coming projects that you can talk about?
For comics, it's right now it's just Future Favors the Bold. I also work for CBC making a podcast called Personal Best, and it's a self-help podcast for people who hate self-help. And so we just finished our season 3. We're currently in the middle of editing and writing the scripts. So that will come out February 2024.
Sounds good. Now, do you have a website where people can go to find out more about your current and your future projects?
Yeah, my future projects. Yeah. Well, if you want to check out the Kickstarter, you can go to www.inks.pub/Tales of the Bold, and you'll see the whole Kickstarter campaign. If you want to find me on Twitter or Instagram, you can find me at Rob the Norman. It's pretty much my Kickstarter campaign. It is mostly me talking about Future Favors the Bold, but after October 27th, it will return to business as usual. So you can also find me there.
Thanks to Rob for the chat. You can discover more about Future Favors the Bold on Kickstarter. And you can discover more about Rob on Instagram at Rob the Norman. And thanks to you for listening to the True North Country Comics podcast. If you haven't done so already, please subscribe to and like this podcast on Apple Podcasts. And please check out the TrueNorthCountryComics.com website. True North Country Comics is now on YouTube. Please like and subscribe to that video channel and hit the notification button. You can find at True North Country Comics on most social media sites. Please send your feedback to John at TrueNorthCountryComics.com. And if you want to help the site and the podcast, please consider supporting the effort by chipping in at ko-fi.com/True North Country Comics. Your patronage is greatly appreciated. Thanks for listening, and come back soon for another episode. Bye for now. True Earth Country Comics Podcast, copyright True Earth Country Comics, copyright 2023.